We speak. In fact, Israel's IDF now coming out with more information that they have killed Mohammad Raad, who heads Hezbollah's faction in the Lebanese parliament in Beirut after Hezbollah launched rockets towards Israel. So continuous attacks now happening, and this is in fact a massive breakthrough. Tom, would you like to weigh in on this? Mohammad Raad, the man heading Hezbollah's faction in the Lebanese parliament in Beirut. So this is exactly what we have also been discussing in the last 24 hours. Tom, if you may want to weigh in on all of these, what Iran would want to call strategic assets to Iran, whether it is the Hezbollah or whether it is Hamas. These terror militias have in fact been decimated completely, and is this going to be the end of the Iranian regime, if not just yet? Tom?
Well, I do not expect this to be the end of the Iranian regime. As far as I can say, yes, Hezbollah has suffered heavy losses the last 2 years, but they are still there. You cannot kill an idea. And Hezbollah came into being as a tool of defense of the Shia of southern Lebanon that were massacred by Israel by dozens of thousands all through the 1970s. So they need defense, they need protection. That means they need this idea of safety. So if you cannot now demand from them to stop wanting to feel safe. Correspondingly, they are going to remain where they are in one form or the other. It's similar with the Iranian regime. Came into being on basis of opposition to the US hegemony over the country, or the US influence, Western influence, however we want to call it. This is not going to disappear over the night.
So what's in fact a bit surprising is in the first post that he had shared on Truth Social, making that announcement about the killing of the Ayatollah, he spoke about how they have been in touch with the IRGC, the military, even the police, and they have given them this sense that they do not want this conflict to continue, and that the only way for them to buy immunity means that they should surrender. I'd like your thoughts on that claim that he's making. Is this conflict at the moment also a face-saving attempt by the United States, because they're also going to ensure that there's complete obliteration of their nuclear sites? I could perhaps have you weigh in on that, Ambassador, in just a second. In fact, Haim has some information that she'd like us to go through.
In fact, for that, if I could call, Tom, if you could just come here. Of course, we're trying to take our viewers through the sensitive areas at this point. Remember, viewers, there are a lot of flight disruptions that we're also looking at. But first, let's just take a look at this map, and if Tom could then take us through all the sensitive areas at this point where we are also seeing certain strikes. Tom.
Thank you. Well, as of the last night and yesterday, the Israelis and Americans are primarily attacking Iran from the west and striking sites in the Tehran area, Isfahan area, for example, and Qom. I'm honestly surprised that there are next to no reports about strikes from central and eastern Iran, just for example. In turn, Iran has launched a very heavy, very severe strike at Jerusalem, for example, missile strike, and there were really dozens of missiles to be seen coming down in the Jerusalem area. In the Persian Gulf, this is one of the typical situations for IRGC under the given circumstances. The leadership is partially killed or not available. Then the local commanders start acting on their own, along pre-planned designs, so to say. And therefore, one of them has attacked an oil rig in the Persian Gulf and hit it with an UAV. Another one has attacked a merchant somewhere here in this area. And there were also threats with closing the Hormuz Strait. Then Larijani appeared, who is the actual strongman, if I'm to ask. Larijani is currently the most powerful person in Tehran. He appeared and said, no, we are not closing the Hormuz Strait. Why? Because he thinks one way, the people in the field think the other way. Commanders who are cut off from the outside world, they think their own way. They are acting on their own because they are trained to act on their own.
All right. Now, of course, Tom, when we discuss all these areas which are, of course, under threat at this time, when we're talking about the vacuum that we're seeing in Iran at this point as well,
Yes.
you said earlier that you cannot kill an idea. And, of course, a lot of other experts have also observed that hardly do you ever see regime change just by way of airstrikes. And there has to be some boots on ground as well. When we talk about options and the end game, what do you think is going to happen and how this is going to unfold going forward?
I think that essentially where this is going to lead is what I call the scenario 3, which is some sort of nothing comes out of it. Everything remains the way it is.
All right.
That means the regime remains in force in one way or the other. There is a question of ideological orientation of the new supreme leader, whoever this is going to be. On the other hand, Trump is going to scream and shout and boast with us another victory, just like last year in June. Netanyahu is going to declare it for another major victory, and whatever they have disabled Iran, or in their typical style. I call this idiocracy. Generally, it is a very harsh word, but it is actually perfectly covering what both sides are doing. They are living in their parallel universe, whether the Iranian regime or the U.S. president in the White House or Netanyahu, and they are, explaining one version of things.
Do you think that they've also had a set of learning from Operation Rising Lion?
Set of learning.
Yeah, because, there were claims being made by the United States. The US president was very confident that they had completely obliterated the nuclear facilities in Iran in the strikes last year.
In
June.
Yes.
So that learning, because this time around he's making it amply clear that they will reach their end goal and only then will they settle. And that's why he said that we will ensure that our goals are reached upon. And I think the goal he means is to completely obliterate all the nuclear sites that are left. So is that the learning that they've had from the June strikes when we talk about Operation Rising Lion?
All I can answer in this regard is why should he learn anything? He is untouchable, unaccountable, President Trump. So why should he even care to learn something?
No, because the claims he had made last time around was that they had completely destroyed the nuclear sites. But the US intelligence corrected his information that
in a matter of hours, yes. So it's the same now. His chiefs of staff have told him, listen, we can run an operation for perhaps 1 week. We do not have the ammunition. We cannot destroy everything you want us to destroy. And his reaction to this was, oh, everything is fine, let's attack. So what has he learned?
All right, we'll continue with that discussion. I think Haim also wants to go to the newsroom and maybe take this discussion forward. And while Haim reaches Aman, in the meantime, Ambassador, you could also weigh in on that question that I was talking about, the IRGC scope for immunity back over there.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Akansha. I think IRGC is a very disciplined force, and it has been established to protect the regime, basically to protect the supreme leader and the setup around it. So they are very ideologically motivated. So I don't think the flip is going to take place as quickly as it took place in Venezuela. Everyone sort of is coming back to Venezuela, but you had the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez and the others. I think they had been compromised in advance. When Nicolas Maduro was taken, that, this is the arrangement that we are going to work out, you will be allowed to stay. But that having been said, Akansha, if you permit, just one more comment. There are multiple voices that are going to emerge in Iran. It's not going to be, there's no supreme leader. There's no single supreme leader. Today, the Guardianship Council comprises of 3 people. Pezeshkian, the president, Ghulam Mohammad Usmani, whatever, the Chief Justice, and Ali Raza Arafi. Now, many of them will also be moderates. We have to
All right. So, of course, we are bringing you all the updates from the newsroom as well. This is where our social media desk